Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity. People tell me every day love is gonna come my way. So check for clues that I hope to find. Want something that's gonna last. I wanna live and forget the past. I know this change is gonna do me good. I know this change is gonna do me good. Even though it hurts me now, I know this change is do me wondering what the world will know. You got a clue to let me know. I'm holding back now. Give me a sign. From something really good. Take a dream, you know you should. I know this change is gonna do me good. I know this change is gonna do me good. Even though it hurts me now, I know the change will be. Every change is in its own way. I'm feeling better every day. I'm gonna look back and call them there someday. And I'm gonna even though it hurts me now, I know it's a coming through. Even though it hurts me now, I know this change will do me good. Aloha. Good evening. This is Andrew Aloha live out of Flagstaff, Arizona for Spiritual Image Productions on Blog Talk Radio and freeconferencing.com and Ustream, establishing and maintaining right relationships through human value. Aloha and welcome to tonight's Intimacy, Tantra, and Relationship Psychically Fulfilled show. Tonight we'll be talking with Francis Conrad in Travel with a Purpose. Aloha, Conrad. Or Francis, excuse me.
Morning, good afternoon. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for being here. And we are, and just to let you guys know, Francis has gathered practical strategies from 43 years of international travel and 35 years as a therapist. He helps people to have a greater purpose and deeper fulfillment in the second half of their life through travel. And if you want some more information on Francis, you can always go to www.francislconrad.com, and again francislconrad.com. We're going to come back and talk to him about the travel and relationships and so forth. And in the meantime, we also have Lorae, our in-house Maha Dakini or Tantrica at www.mahadakini.com. Aloha, Lorae.
Aloha, Andrew.
And thank you for being here. Lorae just got back from Wisconsin. I think she had a pretty busy week over there. But just to let you know, Maha Dakini Lorae's life has been a personal journey exploring sexuality and spirituality for over 20 years. She's a certified tantric counselor and tantric healer and a certified mind sound teacher. Maha Dakini Lorae is also a graduate of Margot Long's Margot Anand's year-long Sky Dance and Tantra Facilitator Training Program, as well as a current member of the American Association of Sex Educators and Counselors and Therapists Club, and a charter member of the Association of Sexual Energy Professionals. She regularly attends trainings and conferences to keep current with the latest research and information on sexual education. And Maha Dakini Lorae also happens to be one of our underwriters, and I do want to give big aloha to her, as well as to all the rest of our underwriters, including the 90-Day Ascension Journey at www.90dayascensionjourney.com. When you sign up for the 90-Day Ascension Journey, you will be facilitated with defining and redefining your soul true life purpose. You will be assisted with finding out what ascension means to you. On this journey, you will be provided with tools, techniques, and assistance to empower you to connect and reconnect with yourself and your emotions and feelings in your mind, body, and spirit. Through a universal soul-centered process, you will be going through a lifelong transformation that will allow you to move forward with your endeavors and never look back if you dare. And for those of you that are interested, I wrote the supplement, the book version of this last year. And if you go to www.90dayascensionjourney.com or spiritualimageproductions.com, there's a gift. There's a picture of the book. You can click on that. That'll give you more information about the book. And also, you can order it from there, or you can order it from Amazon or Kindle as well. And just to let you guys know, also, Francis and I are getting ready to do a joint workshop or intensive in Tucson, Arizona, in June of this year. So if you're interested in participating in that, you can contact us, or you can go to spiritualimageproductions.com, sign up for the email list, and keep abreast of everything that's going on with Spiritual Image Productions and Andrew Aloha, myself, and I, and that'll keep you in the loop if you're interested in participating in that. In the meantime, we also have the 2017 MUFON Symposium at www.mufonsymposium.com. The MUFON Symposium is the world's most respected and meeting of the mind on the UFO phenomena. From a scientific point of view, there is no other event on Earth that even comes close. Come one, come all, and be immersed in the great quest to unravel the mystery of the UFO, to be held at the JW Marriott in Las Vegas, Nevada, from the 21st to the 22nd, to the 23rd of July. And just to let you know, I'm also going to be doing a MUFON Symposium interview series beginning on the 21st of May and the 28th of May, and also the 11th and 18th of June. I'll be interviewing with a number of the speakers that will be participating and also presenting there, including John Bradenberg, I believe, who is going to be the keynote speaker. And also, I'll be interviewing Andrew Basaggio, Michael Schrott, and then also, I thought it was Michael Sala. I believe it's Michael Sala as well. No, I take it back. Professor James Woodward, I believe, out of California, who's professor at University of California at Fullerton, I believe. So anyhow, again, you can keep abreast of everything that's going on by signing up for the email list on the right-hand side as you click onto spiritualimageproductions.com. You can also go on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, there's a link that says SIP's Divine Calendar. You can click on that. That gives you all the information of all the stuff that we've been doing throughout the year and will be doing for the rest of the year. So you can go from there. Anyhow, I want to thank all of you for stopping by, and I want to thank Francis here. He lives in Sedona, believe it or not. And we can talk to him and about travel with a purpose. Aloha, Francis. How are you?
I'm doing great.
And thank you for being here. So, if you can give us a little bit of an overview of who Francis is, where you were born, where you raised, how you got into being a therapist, and how you got into the travel industry. Go ahead.
Well, I grew up in the Midwest in Cleveland. And maybe what's unique about my beginnings is that I had a large family that I grew up in, which, I had 8 sisters and 5 brothers.
Wow. What are you, Mormon? Catholic?
So, no, Catholic. My parents were practicing Catholics, which meant they didn't use birth control.
I'll say.
I think that they needed Lorae's help, and she just wasn't available at the time.
Yeah.
Wow. No kidding. So go ahead, Francis.
That was my start, and so you can get the idea that my desire to get out, because there really wasn't as much available in the family as I needed, sort of set me up to, want to get away and travel. I basically left home when I was a freshman and went into the seminary and spent 11 years studying to be a missionary, again to travel and go overseas. And when I got out of that is when I actually started my travel. And from there until the present date, that was 43 years ago. And there's a part of me that has always been drawn to travel. So every time I travel, I have 2 or 3 places I want to go next. And when I'm, ready to come home, I'm feeling like, I'm not sure I want to come home yet. I want to stay on the road.
Right.
So I think travel's soul. It's always been there.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying exactly. I just went to Tucson a few days ago, and I didn't want to come back. I wanted to go to Sedona and hang out there for a couple of days, but I thought, I better go home because I got work to do. But anyhow, go ahead. So where'd you go to school at?
Where would you like to know next?
Well, we have plenty of time, Conrad.
Okay.
Where did you go to school at?
Okay. So basically, when I left home and went into the seminary, that was called Divine Word Seminary. They were missionaries who went all over the world. My goal at that time was to go to New Guinea. That was a place that was so primitive and so far away from home, it sort of spoke to me. And I got my degree in philosophy, and I continued all the way up until a year prior to ordination. So I also was 1 course short of completing my master's in divinity. So you could say that, I went right to the very edge and then decided, this isn't really what I want to do. And I'm one of those people that can easily get into something and stay there way too long.
Wow.
And I've done that more than once in my life. I think that the saving part of my whole life has been, even though I may feel stuck in a job or something, I've always had the outlet of getting on a plane and going somewhere else to be able to feed my soul and to be able to, reach out to parts of my life that would never be, really nourished if I just stay home. So I would say that, the schooling I got in terms of my current, interest in travel and my background as a therapist, I basically have a master's in social work, and I've worked inpatient, which means in a psychiatric hospital, and I ran groups on a ward for 3 years. I also have worked extensively in outpatient treatment, which means that I worked with people who, had severe enough illnesses that they really needed extra support even to function in the community. And during that time, I went in and out of people's homes. I was on the streets in the community. And I really, loved the fact that what I was doing was so much a part of people's lives. And by the time, I worked in several communities, no matter where I would walk, I would always have kids and families come up to me because so many people knew me. So I was able to integrate what I did into a whole community and, people who knew me and lived there. As a traveler, my interest was never narrow. It was to see as much of the world as I could and I've traveled every which way, you know. I started off as what they call a solo traveler. For the first 7 years, I would get on the plane all by myself, and I would wander around and spend the entire time that I was traveling just interacting on my own and coming out of my shell and coming out of being this shy kid and starting to realize that who I was when I traveled was so much more outgoing and adventuresome. And so I took that all over the world as much as I could. During my early years, I think my favorite place was Greece. I would almost always find some excuse to go to Greece first, no matter where else I might be going. And now, you know, I call myself a travel coach, which means that, you know, the coaching part of me, I think, has its roots in all the things that I learned as a therapist. And the travel is really integrating the two. And it's like as if my life, as I've gotten older now, has come together, and these two major components, my career and my travel, are really what my life is about. And my goal overall is, as you said at the beginning of the show, that, you know, what I want to do is help people to have a greater purpose in their life. That who they become and what is ahead really opens up and expands, but also that it's more fulfilling, because I think we could be at a crisis point in history in terms of the way that many people's lives are ending. Instead of it being the greatest part of their life, I think far too often it's cut short because they really are not all that satisfied with what's ahead.
Got it, got it.
I sort of dropped that, didn't it? What I think is ahead is like a fork in the road. And at this fork, we have the opportunity to go ahead into the most phenomenal future that's ever been possible because of all the things that are available to us today that weren't even there 15 years ago. Or if we don't prepare ourselves, I think it can be pretty grim, because I'm not sure that we're going to be able to rely on the system to take care of us. Social Security and the retirement package, I'm just looking at those types of things, and people find out that they don't last very long and go very far.
Got it, got it. So, Conrad, let's take a few steps back. First of all, when you did work as well, first of all, you went to school in Ohio, is what I hear you saying, and you came short of one class of becoming a missionary, and you decided, no, this is not what I'm going to do. And so, did you get your social degree? Was it a social work degree there or somewhere else?
I went to Chicago, and so I moved to Chicago. I remember that when I first moved there, I was pretty young, early 20s, and I had this image of Chicago back in the days when there were gangsters and people going up and down the streets with machine guns and Al Capone and all that. And so I can remember going from the Midwest to Chicago really was like a threatening until I actually got there and found out that there was nobody shooting people with machine guns on the street anymore. But I went to the South Side, and that's where I went to school and got my master's degree.
Got it, got it. And so, was that also where you worked at in Chicago or somewhere else?
So I lived in Chicago and worked there for 22 years.
Wow, wow, wow. And then the kind of
during that time,
go ahead.
I basically started off, working in an agency that was community-based, like I said, and I was really helping people who were considered mentally ill adults. And the community said, these people, they're never going to be able to have a life. They're not social. They don't make friends. And we put together a day treatment program, and really were able to help this group of people to prove the system and society wrong, because as they had a social outlet and they had things to do, they started coming out of themselves and coming alive. This was back in the early 70s, where some people were coming out of years and years of being hospitalized and back into the community with no preparation. So our agency was one of the agencies that was really there to help that transition, help people to not only come out of the hospital, but actually come alive and start to function and enjoy their life again. And it was at that time that I realized that now that people were enjoying themselves and they were becoming social in all these aspects of their life that people thought were not possible, we were starting to see it. So I got the state to purchase a apartment building for me. And we got a 14-unit apartment building, and I took that group of people and started bringing people into my apartment building and supporting them. And we then proved that not only were they social and able to, have a life, but they were able to function in the community. And so we taught them and helped them to put together a life where they would have a job and prepare themselves to live independently and manage transportation and all the things that were needed to be a part of the community. And it got so successful that my program actually was run by the clients after a while. They basically set up all their own activities, they ran their program, and they started managing their own building, they did their own maintenance, and they monitored each other too. Was able to experience, how powerful an environment can be when it's set up properly, and when people learn something about, what they're capable of. And we had a lot of confidence that our group of people could function and were capable, and they proved it.
Nice, nice. So, Francis, what I'm going to do is we have a caller on the line. I'm going to go ahead and open up that line. Area code 504. Aloha, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, who are we talking to? Where'd you hear about us at, and where are you located at?
My name is Debbie, and I was looking at the program listings on Blog Talk. I found it very interesting, and I'm calling from Louisiana.
Okay. Debbie, did you have a question for Conrad, or for Francis, or Lorae, or myself?
Yeah, I mean, with the stay on the topic, right, for what we have today?
Yeah, tonight we're talking about relationships, and tonight the focus is on travel with a purpose. And Francis happens to be a therapist, and we're right now we're just kind of getting some background on how he got into all this, and then going and we'll be going further into that.
Okay.
But go ahead, whatever question you got.
Well, I have been with someone for like 8 years, and I mean it feels very appropriate. Like we have good, good energy. There are some issues and stuff, but I always have people tell me that that this person is holding me back, and I was wondering, does that stop your growth spiritually, or is that just can you still move forward and not have people hold, your partner hold you back?
Go ahead, Francis. What do you got?
Obviously, I don't know your situation, so I'm not going to be able to go in very deep into this. But, the way I look at it, that when I am in touch with my authentic self, that's something that we work with when we travel. We learn more about who we are at the deeper levels. When I'm in touch with my authentic self, I have access to a part of me that is not in any way affected by other people or what people around me are doing.
Okay.
And it sort of helps give me direction on how to maintain my own sense of self in the midst of, either relationships or career or lifestyle that's, maybe mixed up for a while, but I believe that part of us, if we listen to it can actually direct us on what are the correct ways to, to become more authentic in terms of who we really are. And a lot of times I've seen that relationships can totally change when people step into that place of their own power and their own authenticity. And it might be totally shocking to both people in the relationship how they really are meant to be together and how they really have space to support each other. And I've also seen it go the other way. As people get more and more authentic, they own their own power and they move into their life, and that might mean separating from the other person. So it could go either way.
Well, people tell me I'm a go-getter, and he's not. He's, a little bit older, but I don't feel like I changed myself. I feel like I'm the same. If I know somebody is going to be angry about something, I just don't bring it up. It doesn't mean I don't believe what I believe, but I just don't feel like, throwing my beliefs out there. I still believe them, but, I don't need to have everybody else okay it. So, and there's about being equally yoked. That's why I was asking, since it was about relationships.
So so let me intervene here for a second, Francis. Debbie, I think you kind of answered your own question. You said it yourself. If you haven't significantly changed into this different person because of being around this guy, I think that says it all. That means you're still being yourself. You're still being authentic, as Francis says. And if you're being yourself, then I don't know that this guy is pulling you down or not. It sounds to me like he's just and I don't know. I'm assuming that he's being supportive. And if he's being supportive, then obviously in the right direction. But if he is being critical and criticizing you all the time and bringing you down, in the sense of speaking, then you want to look at all that whole situation. And not only that, but you want to look at what kind of changes you can make to shift it to a healthier relationship, or you want to. Or you might have to consider taking some time out with him or something like that. But it sounds to me like you're in the right direction. Lorae, what do you got? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, so we'll let her say something, then I'll kind of throw my.
Okay, go ahead, Debbie.
I just think it's weird that not a lot, actually one's my mother, and this girl that I work with, and I don't see what they see. That's why, when it was about relationships, I was like, oh, I'd really like to find out. I don't think anybody's perfect, and, the only thing I would say that I would like to change would be a little bit of anger issues, but it's not physical, it's just, frustration.
Got it.
So, I just wonder if I'm kidding. I know I'm not kidding myself. I don't know why so many people feel that they could tell me stuff, It's so weird.
Well, when people say stuff to my friends or my family or myself about our relationship with each other, if they're being supportive, if they're, in terms of my efforts or their efforts, then I can sit there and listen to them and feel like like maybe I should listen and maybe pay attention to what's going on. Maybe they have something important that I need to pay attention to. But if they're not being supportive, then that's probably leading to jealousy or something else that's not healthy to begin with. And so then you got to look at that. And if they're not being healthy with you to begin with, then do I really want to listen to that person? Absolutely not. So go ahead, Lorae.
Okay.
All right, so this is what I'm kind of.
But you're going to have to talk louder because I can barely hear you for some reason.
Oh, all right, hang on. Let me try to crank up the volume here. So just when she was talking about like what other people are saying. So I think, one, if you're really interested and curious, then sit down and have a conversation with your mother and your friend about what are they seeing, and seek, ask, you're telling me this about my husband. What do you see that I'm not? I'm wanting to understand your viewpoint. So there's no accusation or anything.
Okay.
And that way I think you'll be able to make an informed decision. And the other thing about relationships is that sometimes it's really nice for people to be opposite. If you're outgoing and he's a little bit more gentle, you complement each other. He's allowing, he doesn't want to go shopping. He'd rather stay home and do yard work or gardening. You get to go out with your
That's exactly it. That's exactly.
And you come back and you're just happy because he's digging in the earth.
Exactly. That's been the whole day digging in dirt or hammering stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go. But that's so minor, like you said. That's not that bad. I was like, maybe something's wrong. Oh my God, you just said it. Oh, thank you.
And that's where Francis is bringing up is that when people travel, they're doing their own thing, and they're when they come back home, they take that experience and it adds to their life and to their relationship. So maybe your mother doesn't see that. She just sees, well, you're alone with it. He does his own thing. He's separate and separate. If that's what makes him happy, but then also try to, plan out some other kinds of things that, a night for each of you, to do something together, a movie or a dinner or just a walk and ask him about his day. I think men don't, find that interesting, but like, honey, you built something. Tell me about it. Then he can share the accomplishment.
My mom actually told me she had a dream that he killed me. Oh my gosh, it's so helpful because I feel the same way, but I'm like, is something wrong with me? Something wrong with me? I feel this way? I'm okay with it. You don't want someone up your behind, that much.
Well, and there are some relationships where men are controlling women all the time. They separate them from their families and from their friends, and they tell them what to wear, and they have them on edge all the time, and that's where this narcissistic kind of thing comes in. And you have the opposite. You have your freedom. You can be with your family. You can be with your friends. You have your relationship with him. And I'm hoping that you do special things together. It's not everything is separate. You live in the same bed and don't communicate.
Right.
And I don't know.
You nailed it.
So now, one of the things, if you want to check it out, Francis, you have because one of the things that Francis has been doing is he's been doing travel tours across the country, or actually to other parts of the world, and he'll again he introduces the vacation or whatever the tour, and then he does these gatherings as part of the process. And I don't know if when's the next one is to Ecuador? Is that correct, Francis?
Say that again. I didn't quite hear it.
Your next tour is to Ecuador. Is that correct?
Actually, what happened is that pulled up, and so we're looking at setting up our next tour in September. And haven't picked the place yet, but we'll be doing that very soon.
Got it. Okay, so your Ecuador tour is filled up, so that's good. And so your next one after that will be September. So if you're interested in doing one of those tours with Francis, maybe that might be an option to consider, and maybe that might be something that might be helpful. And sometimes it's just helpful just to get away. It's like a math problem. You try to solve it, and you beat your head against the wall. And sometimes instead of beating your head against the wall, just walk away and then take a trip or whatever, and then come back to it. And then a lot of times you'll solve it in a jiffy. So it's like that. So again,
I love that.
If you want to get together with
my question is, did you get somewhat of an answer to what you were asking?
Yes, I feel better. I don't know if you heard this, but my mom said she had a dream that he killed me, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're just trying to put doubt in my mind, because I don't feel that at all. Like, that's a major dream. She just really got mad at him, you know? I was just like, And she is sensitive, but she also can twist stuff if she knows you. You know, like, you're related to her.
Yeah, the sense I get with listening to you is that you're a person who knows yourself quite well. And so my sense is that a lot of what people are saying, you already know where you stand in relationship to that. And I would say just trust yourself, because I think, you know, your sense of what's going on can be pretty accurate.
Well, the basic.
Thank you. I think so.
The basic rule of thumb is no blaming, no complaining, no threats, no lies, and no name calling. Those are the 5 basic mundane 3D level rules or guidelines for a right healthy relationship with your partner, with your friends, your family, and so forth. And so if somebody's threatening or blaming your partner, your husband, or whatever to begin with, then that's a red flag. That says it all to begin with, right there. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, so if they're pointing their finger at him or you or both, then you know they have three fingers. What are they hiding? They have 3 fingers pointing back at them, and so and you might want to lay down boundaries. You know, from there, if it gets out of hand, you know, you can sit down and say, hey, you know, I don't appreciate you calling my partner a name or threatening or blaming him for this, that. I don't think it's cool. From now on, if you talk about my partner, either if it's something that's constructive or something that's supportive, then I'm open to it. Otherwise, I would rather not hear it or whatever. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
So, and sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah, I just listen. Yeah, I just listen.
Yeah, and sometimes you know, if it's not way out of bounds, you can just listen and then tune it in, and then as soon as it's over, the conversation's over, then tune it out and forget about it. So you can do that too as well, whatever. And then if it gets to be pressing, then you'll want to set a boundary and say, hey, I don't appreciate this. You know, that's not cool. And would rather not talk to you. I would rather you not mention any of this unless you're you know, trying to be supportive, and that's it. Okay, so like that.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
So now, Francis, if she wants to get a hold of you about this the trip in September, how does she do that? Where does she go to for that?
Yeah, what you would do is go to www.francislconrad.com, and there's a place where you can leave your email address, and I would get back to you. I'm actually in the process of updating the PDF that's going to go with that, which should be on there within a very short time. But that's the way to get a hold of me, and I would follow up and get back to you.
All right. Okay.
So I have a question for Frank.
I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Lorae.
Do you do affordable trips? Like, instead of going to Ecuador where it may cost, you know, it's cheap there once you get there, but it's expensive airfare. Would you do anything local, like just some exotic place in America and take people on a tour similar here? There's places I haven't been in the United States that are kind of exciting and interesting, and as opposed to going to somewhere outside of the country.
Yeah, my answer to that is probably twofold. One of them is I'm actually exploring some of those options, and having settled on a place in this country, because there's a lot of people overseas that would like to come here also. And so I am looking at that. And the second answer is that part of the opportunity of having my business is to go to places that to me are really exotic and are places that really stand out because of the potential for being introduced to a part of the world that's so different that it really becomes an exciting adventure. So part of it is that also it's my own desire to share with people some of the places in the world that I think are really exotic.
Well, I haven't been up to Alaska, and that could be exotic for me, or going out to the south, which is, I know it's very exotic for
I think
girl.
Very true.
if we talk on the phone, you'll get a sense that what my business is about is way more than the location that we go to, and it's what can happen to people as a result of it, and how this is really set up to be much more than just normal travel. And so there's a reason that I pick places like I do. They have to fit my own criteria to really use them as potential places. But I think that, we have a world that's so huge, there's all types of opportunities in different directions. And so we're always looking at different places to go.
Okay.
So does that answer your question, Debbie?
Yeah, it does. I've actually been to South America. I was in Venezuela, Dominican Republic. So it is, yeah, I love South America. I haven't been to Ecuador, though. But, yeah, it does. It makes me feel better, too, because I do feel like I know, and I don't know why people feel that, well, I know why my mom, she feels I'm going to probably leave her or something, but I'm not. She's getting older, and she just gets scared, I think.
Yep, there you go.
More she's trying to control.
Yep, you hit it right on the nose. Fear is at the root of all those situations, for the most part, anyhow. So and she's probably getting more and more lonely or whatever. I don't know, but it's like that.
Yeah.
But Debbie, what I would say also is that, I think you represent so many of us who are alive on the planet at this time. And what I mean by that is I think we're living in very complex times, and life has, it's not something that we can easily find answers to, because I think so many things are changing so quickly. And so when I listen to you, I can also get that, you're not alone. There's so many of us who can totally understand that feeling that, where do we get advice and how do we deal with things when life is so complex? So you're not alone.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, Debbie.
Speeding up it seems like,
So what I think what we're going to do right now is go ahead and take a time out. We're going to play some music. I talked Italiano by Tamara Rodriguez Mejo, who I actually interviewed a few years ago, and she's got some pretty amazing music. But anyhow, we're going to send out love, blessings, healings, angels of light and love to everyone here on the phone lines and the chat rooms, all our family and friends, to all our vehicles and places of residence that take care of us. Anyone you want, to the President of the United States, the President definitely, to the President of the United States and his family and friends, to all the kids and the animals and the plants on the planet, especially the ones in need and concern. You want to add to any of that to that, Debbie?
any names to that?
Yeah, anybody you want to send out love and blessings to right now?
Of course, I always ask for animals because I do a lot of rescue work, so definitely the animals, especially a new phenomena is these people, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, they just pick animals up and relocate them. People, like cats and dogs, and this is something new to me, unless maybe I wasn't aware, but I like to pray for those animals that are, just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay. And for the food that we have, so that it stays pure. I mean, I think with the GMOs, it's getting a little confusing what to eat these days.
Got it.
Other than in my family and friends, but I pray for the food, and that's exactly how I vote is like foods with the big chemical companies and things like that.
Got it. What about you?
The basics.
Francis, what about you? Anybody else that you want to send out love, light, lessons to right now?
I was
you mean personally?
I'm talking about I was talking to Francis. Is there anybody else?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
I was really very touched by quite a number of families from, Iran and different places that were, outside of their own countries. And I think that they were reaching out. And so I guess the idea that we are one family, the entire universe is part of our lives, that that the human family is available, and we are supporting each other to get through these times. So I'm thinking of all those people who are reaching out and are getting responses.
Got it.
To make their lives.
To all the Iraqians, to all the fairies and the gnomes and the little people that nobody that does all the behind the scenes work that nobody sees. Lorae, anybody else you want to add to that?
No, I'm good. I'll just think of what everybody else says.
Also to all the aliens and everyone and everything else that's helping to support humanity and life form here on this planet. To everyone else in need and concern, we will be back. I talked to Italiano by Tamar Rodriguez.
Uh-oh.
And we're back. This is Andrew Aloha live out of Flagstaff, Arizona, with Spiritual Image Productions on Blog Talk Radio and freeconferencing.com and Ustream, establishing and maintaining right relationships through human value. Again, tonight we're doing the Intimacy, Tantra, and Relationships Psychically Fulfilled show. talking with Francis Conrad all the way out of Sedona, Arizona. And tonight we're talking about travel with purpose. He talks to us about the notion of having grown up in a large family, a rather large family, and out of Cleveland, Ohio. Went to Chicago. Actually, he went to, I believe, Ohio as well. Went to missionary school, seminary school, and decided he wanted to become a therapist, and so he went to Chicago, went to school there, graduated, and then was a therapist there for over 20 years, I believe. And now, and we've also been talking with Debbie. Now, Debbie, where'd you say you're located at?
Louisiana.
Oh, that's right, Louisiana. Who has a partner, and there's people that have been giving her some advice, which is sounds to me like it's not been very healthy. And so anyhow, we've been giving her some guidelines about how to deal with that, and she seems to be comfortable with the advice we've given her so far. So anyhow, in the meantime, we're going coming back to Francis here now, and Francis says, well, I'm assuming you started traveling at a younger age. I don't know how young you started traveling, but you've been traveling for a long time. You must definitely have Sagittarius in your chart, and so which has led to you combining your passion of travel with your with therapy and working with people in a therapeutic way on tours. Is it safe to say that, Francis?
Correct, yeah, that's it. And basically, when I put those two together, on one side you can say that there's a whole part of my life that is focused on travel and years of what I've learned. And then on the other part is what I've learned about working with supporting people as a therapist, building really powerful communities. Because most of my work as a therapist, I was actually working in situations where I was always promoting people to grow in groups and in communities. And so on the one side, I've got my work as a therapist combined with travel, and you say, what is it that brings those two together? What is it that, connects the two? And I think it's transformation. And so I want to talk just for a minute about how I see transformation to be the key to really understand what our travel with a purpose business is all about.
So now, Francis, just to let you know, Francis,
about the brain,
Francis,
more recent, neurotechnology and neuroscience. What we know is that the brain is pretty much hardwired to continue to do the kinds of things that it's used to get into habits and maintain those habits. And the brain will then resist change. It resists any type of growth. And sort of like wants to just build on and reinforce the identity that we had often that's put together when we were little children. And so one of the reasons that I think travel and this whole thing about working with what we understand with the brain goes so well together is travel is one of the ways where we can literally get away from what our brain is familiar with. We can get into an environment where we don't have the answers and where we really are sort of left to our own devices because we're no longer able to get the responses that our brain is used to. They just don't work when you get far enough away from home. And so I think that if we want to transform, travel is one of the ways that we can most quickly and easily remove ourselves from the triggers that are so familiar at home. And it's why, I choose to travel in places that are often considered pretty foreign and different, because the more foreign it is, the more quickly we can set ourselves up to find our own resources and to go deeper into our own interactions with people because of the fact that we can't fall back on what we're used to. We know that transformation has happened so many times in history. You know, famous people that we all know, I think, have been transformed somehow or other by getting away from what they're familiar with and getting into a place that is so different that it opens up possibilities that may have never been there for them. We know that Gandhi, for instance, he went to South Africa, and that's where he was transformed, so that when he came back to India, that's how he started his whole movement against Great Britain, was out of that experience in South Africa. Traveling to a foreign country opened him up somehow to his whole mission in life. Steve Jobs went to his parents' garage and developed Apple when he came back from India. And Malcolm X, who was the black Muslim leader back in the 60s, when he went to Mecca, totally changed his whole attitude about, you know, whites and blacks, and went from being very anti-white to being extremely on the opposite side, and that came as a result of travel. And then the one that's most contemporary is J.K. Rowling, who's actually on a bus or a train going to London, and that's when the whole Harry Potter idea came to her. She was traveling. And so I think that there's something about travel that needs to be pointed out as, you know, it's a special case. There's something that can happen when people travel, and it seems like it opens us up. And I think it's partly because it opens us up to the ability to actually experience life in ways that our brains fight. We experience the ability to be in places where we can change and transform and grow. And if we stay home, it's much, much more difficult to experience those things, just by the way our brain is wired. And so my business takes advantage of travel because of the ways that it can help us more quickly and more deeply access parts of ourselves that we need to get in touch with. It's like it opens the door, and that door that's opened really can take us all the way down to a seat within ourselves in a central place that's connected to something that's more authentic. I think of it as my authentic self. And finally be free to emerge. So when I travel, I expect that, you know, that people will be able to be more authentic, experience more freedom, have a lot more confidence, simply because of their ability to interact more directly and more boldly and passionately with the kinds of things that are coming up when they meet people in a foreign land. So travel to me is really the place where not only do I get a new perspective, but that new perspective might be the foundation for a whole new way of life. And that new way of life would be a transformation. I come back a different person. I often find that people travel and they allow themselves to experience the magic of travel. When they come back, they experience that they're not the same. That who they are at a core level has actually changed, it's been transformed.
So there's been a development or expansion of awareness that no longer is the same as they did before they left, or the same as it was before they left, and so therefore that new information coming through is allowing them to be more open to different possibilities or cultures or so forth and so forth. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, and not only does it open us up, but when we function from that opening, from that place of being much, much more present and available to life around us, I think when we do that, we start to literally experience ourselves being different. And that's what I call, you know, a new identity. It literally is beginning to become and experience ourselves in a way that is new to us, that wasn't there before. And because that often is something that's been waiting to emerge, it's almost like it's the reason that we went to travel in the first place. We feel like we got what we traveled for, that we found what we were looking for, that newness, a place in myself that is more authentic, more who I truly am. And I love coming back after travel and experiencing myself being different.
So now, Francis, what are some of the transformations that have taken place that you've noted, or people have told you about after their journey was over, their trip was over? What are some of these transformations that have taken place?
Well, one of the men I worked with, and this was a number of years ago, I was in Indonesia, on an island called Tantric, and I was sitting outside on this bench, and there was an old man that every morning came up, and he had a water buffalo, and he would feed his water buffalo the grass that was next to the place that I was sitting. So I enjoyed watching him feed his water buffalo every single morning, and that became my morning routine. And one day, this young man, who was probably around 20, 21, comes down the path, and he walks up to me, and I was shocked because the place that I was sitting was very remote, and I had no idea how on earth he ever found us. So I asked him, I said, how on earth did you get here? And he said, do you really want to know? And I said, yeah, how did you find me? And he said, well, I was walking down the road, and before I came here to Indonesia, I traveled, from my home, which was in Holland, and he said I left home because I was considered the worst kid in town, and all the parents said that their kids were not allowed to spend any time with me because I was a troublemaker. So he said when I turned 18, I sold everything I owned except my motorcycle, and I got on the road, and for the last 2 years, I've been traveling on my own, and I spent probably a year of that time in India. And when I was in India, there was a guru, and I spent about 6 months in his ashram. And when I was walking down the road here in Indonesia, I heard his voice. I never experienced anything like that before, but I heard his voice in my head. And he said, turn here. So he said, there was this little path. And so I turned on the path and I followed it, and it led all the way up to you. And I looked at him, I said, so what are we supposed to do? And he said, I don't know. But I was told to turn here, so here you are. And so I began to hear his story about how he had traveled for 2 years, and I could tell that he was no longer the kid that left Holland, that was the troublemaker, that was somebody who was very immature, because just talking with him, I could tell that he really was very different. And in fact, he said, the thing I really want the most help with is I met this girl in Indonesia, and I really love her, but I'm afraid to tell her because I don't feel worthy. I don't feel like I have a right to ask somebody, to go out with me. And I said, why? And he said, because I'm a troublemaker. And so we were able to make an agreement that he came by and met with me for the next 4 days, every morning. And I was able to then help him understand how he had transformed over those last 2 years of travel. And on the 5th day, he came back, and he was all smiles, and he said, wow, I feel so good. I asked her out, and, she said yes, and he said, I really do deserve a good relationship. And I think, that would be one story, but it shows the power of how a young man traveling was able to change so much, but it also showed that he needed to have someone else reflect back how he had changed. He didn't see it in himself, even though it was obvious to everybody else. And so I was able to be a part of that transformation that time. And I think when we travel, that's the benefit of having a community around us, is that other people can see things that we don't see. When I first traveled solo for 7 years, so many times there were very powerful experiences that I was having, but because I didn't have the community of people around me that knew me, I think that so many things sort of slipped through without me noticing it. And so when I travel with a purpose, I really set it up to have a very powerful community around me. And as part of that experience, because I know that a lot of what we don't see, other people in the community can bring home to us.
Now that's a good point, Francis and Debbie, that you might want to consider is that the people that you have around you should be people that are supportive. And if you don't have a number of people that are supportive on that level around you now, then that's something you might want to consider doing, establishing a community for yourself, or just a group of people that you feel comfortable with, and that they're kind of your inner circle for the most part, of people that are supportive of your efforts, and of course you would be supportive of them. Does that make sense to you, Debbie?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes, very much so.
So what do you think about this,
I'm
Laura?
kind of the one everybody comes to.
Got it. Lorraine, what do you think about all
Can I
this?
ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Well, I want to ask you a question because when Francis was talking, I was thinking about different experiences in my life to travel where that were transformative, very changing, and some that was very challenging. So, what happens when people are challenged, when it's not working? So, I'll just quickly explain. I went on this Tantric quest, and we went to Guatemala, and it was the worst experience in my life. I almost threw myself off physically off a pyramid. I don't like heights. I scaled that pyramid, and I was about to take a dive.
Okay, I think I got
and what yeah, so, and what I found later on is that I had some astrocartography done, and that was where my Pluto line was for me, and it was like not a good place. All this dark stuff was coming up, and I had arguments with my boyfriend, and it was just the worst, and we had to walk from the camp to where we were having these, our sessions during the day and evening, and it was the same path in the morning, same path in back, same path in the afternoon, and it was like really interesting, even though it's the same path, my experience on that path sucked, or it was okay, or it was really great. And so any of your clients or people who come to see you have these challenging moments, and how are you able to work with that?
Okay, great. Yes, people do have challenging moments because, like we said, when we put ourselves into a place that we're not familiar, there's an automatic trigger in our brain that treats the situation like it's dangerous and can set us up to increase our fear and things. So how do we deal with that is one of the things that, that I studied a lot, and I'll share what I've come up with that does help. The person that I'm going to refer to is the guy from Chicago who studied, people in all different aspects of life who were exceptional. He studied people in sports. He studied CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. He studied people who were incredibly good in relationships, who were incredibly good artists. And he said that what they all had in common was that when they were functioning at their best, which I call being in your authentic self, that in that state, they're in the zone. And so there's like a sports zone and an artist zone. Well, to me, there's also a traveler zone.
That's the Twilight Zone.
Pardon?
It's not the Twilight Zone.
Oh, it's not the Twilight Zone. It's
the traveler zone.
So the way that these people got in the zone across the disciplines was always the same. On the one side, they had to match their capability, what they were capable of, with a certain amount of challenge. What he found is that, and this all applies to travel in a minute, that if you have a challenge that matches your capability, then you can very easily function and have an incredible experience and be very much in the zone. If there's too much challenge and you don't have the capability, this would be a person who's put themselves out there and they're beyond what they're capable of doing, what they're capable of achieving. They've gone too far, too fast, or whatever, then it falls apart. And they end up, instead of going into the zone, they go into like a type of terror. If a person has capabilities, but they don't push themselves enough, then what happens is they get bored. And so they end up really being apathetic, and it's not that interesting, and they're not going to get that much from it. So there's a need when people travel, and this is something that I'm real sensitive to with the group that we take, there's a need to be adjusting, that we challenge ourselves to do things that we didn't do the day before, because it's now something that we're capable of doing. But we do it gradually, and we work our way into it. And on the other end, we make sure that, we're always being given enough education and information about travel so that we can match our capabilities with the things that we're going out and doing. So I would say that what has generally worked for me is when we can match up, what people need to know to travel well, their capabilities, with having the right amount of challenge and not too much or not too little, then what happens is that people are able to experience something that can be very powerful, and it actually puts them into a place where it feels like things are effortless. And I think that, that would be one of the goals of every travel experience is to actually find that zone and then adjust it, adjust it all the time so we can sort of stay in the zone. And being in the zone, I think, is the same thing as being in our authentic self then, and being connected to something much larger, and finding that whatever purpose it was that called us there, we're in a place that we're much more receptive to, what's around us. So I know it's a long answer, but it sort of talks about how travel can go off the deep end if people push themselves too fast or too far, or it can go off the other end if they get bored and they're not challenging themselves enough. A lot of times when people take tours and people guide them around, what happens is they become bored very easily. I once did a tour in Germany, and there were two men on the tour with a whole busload of people, and I noticed that they were not going into the places that the tour stopped. And I thought, where are you going? What's happening? And they were stopping off, and they would find the nearest bar, and they would go have a drink and then come back. And theirs was an example of two people who were in these incredible countries, but they were bored. And so there wasn't enough challenge. They really needed to have something different. And at the time, it wasn't my group, so I really wasn't able to give them more than, I guess an acknowledgement that maybe going to the bar for them was something that actually met their needs more than going to the cathedrals and the museums.
Right.
So now, Francis, let me ask you this. What's a typical tour, one of these tours look like for you? What is like the routine, and what is it that you're doing? And again, what are some of the transformation and experiences that these people that you are giving tours to coming up with? What are they telling you? What are they saying to you about the tours afterwards?
Great question. Thank you. When people come on the tour with me, I put them, into a experience that actually follows a 7-step blueprint. And the reason that I have that is it's really important to me that I'm able to refine how we travel so that as we learn more and more with each group, what happens is we're able to take the group more quickly and more deeply into what it is that attracted them to travel with us in the first place. So I have a blueprint that's called Travel with a Purpose Blueprint. And it does. It has 7 steps that we take people through. And the first step is called the traveler's purpose. And the reason that I think our travel groups are founded is because so often we really don't get a place at home to talk about where we're going in our life. We just sort of go along after a while, and we lose touch with where we're heading, where our journey is going. And so we begin to open up the whole concept that when we travel together, this is an opportunity to travel with depth. And obviously, when I sit around with the group the first night, there's nothing more exciting to me or the people I travel with than to sit at a table out on the sidewalk and just watch people walking by and seeing everything around us and taking it in and sharing it and just being excited by where we're at. And that's the beginning. That's what I would call the very tip of our travel experience. It's the adventure of it. It's the excitement. And then the goal is going to be that as we travel further, that we're going to be able to go into deeper levels, and I call those the inner journey. And the inner journey is where real transformation can happen. And so as people are open to what's around them, they're also aware that something really powerful can happen on the inside as a result of this. And that's going to lead to freedom and a new perspective. And so they move on in this process of the self to what I call the future self. And that's where we begin to look at when we travel, we can actually travel from a place where we're more authentic and what we're doing is we're actually walking around in a being that we may not experience when we're at home because we're not true to ourselves. And so on the second day, and then every day after that, I basically teach people a daily practice. We do it, we meet every morning at 9 o'clock, and the daily practice is that we will basically tune up our whole body, starting with our feet, and I learned some really powerful grounding techniques from a black belt and man learned these in China. And then we move up and we really tune our gut because the traveler has so much access to things around him or her when they pay attention to what's going on in their gut. You know, it's called our instinct. Then we move up and we open up our hearts and we learn how important it is to really be in contact and connect to those around us. And what is special about our travel experience then are the people and the situations that we connect to our hearts. And then we have practices to open our and clear our thinking so that the old ways of seeing things aside so we can be much more present. And those practices we do every single day. Along with it, each day then we have some training. Training is designed to help us to go deeper into what's possible when we travel together, but also to sharing so that the group becomes more and more a part of our support system. So just real quickly, the next part of that process is called the spiritual dive. And that's very much about what we talked about earlier, how to be in the traveler zone. And how when we dive and put ourselves into the place of the zone, we start to learn and get a sense of what this trip is all about for me personally. Why was I called to come on this trip? The next one comes out of my experience as a therapist, and it's the traveler's inner breakthrough. And I help people to understand the 6 ways that they can feel stuck and trapped. Because once I start to open up to my true self, and once I start to live more authentically, the next thing that happens automatically is my doubts and my fears come up. And that's where the travel experience can trigger me to actually want to shut down. And so instead of doing that, that's when we begin to work with the inner breakthrough process and see how easily and quickly, once we know the different ways that we can get stuck, how easily and quickly we can actually move away and into a place of freedom. So that the next part of that whole process is called our fulfillment bucket list. And in that process, we can look now and be much more clear about where we're heading in the future. And so many times, the things that are important to us, our dreams and our visions, are blurry because we don't have this type of clarity. And so in this place, in our travel experience, we begin not only to clarify where we're going, but we walk that line and we begin to declare who we are and what we stand for and where we're going in our life. And so once that's clear, and it's very powerful to have the group of people hear what we have to say. It surprises us. The last 2 are that we can then take that vision that we've proclaimed, put it in the center of a balanced alignment wheel, and then look at how we can then begin to balance our life, which would be our personal life, our relationships, our career, balance our life to what's central. And then the last thing is what I call purposeful partnership. And that's allowing people now to be preparing to go back home and thinking about what type of partnerships do I need to maintain the progress and what it is that I've learned about myself in this travel. So the idea is that not only do I want to acknowledge the transformation, the new identity maybe that I'm standing in, but then I need to start to plan how do I maintain it when I get back home. And so those would be the 7 steps that every group is taken through, and each of those builds on each other. And in the end, there's such a powerful community and such a powerful sense of, how much more this trip has been about, that I think that, there's like a real sense of celebration. That's our last night together. We go out together and we celebrate how it is that, we've all found each other on this trip and how much we've gained from the experience.
Nice, nice. And so, what are some of these people saying afterwards? What are they telling you? What are they reporting to you in terms of the changes they've gone through and so forth?
Well, in the last group, there was a woman named Margaret who, she was so excited. She just kept telling me over and over again, that it was so exciting for her to be able to actually speak up in a group with people who listened to her and actually took her seriously, and that they didn't have to be like her, they didn't have to agree with her. Basically, they accepted her and acknowledged her for who she was. And she was looking forward to going back and being able to be much, much more outspoken and to be herself. That was in the last group. 2 groups ago, there was a woman who stood up and basically proclaimed to the whole group and to all of us, really deep, I would say it was a purpose in her life that she knew she would not even be able to complete in this lifetime. And yet she was able to own it and to see that it was okay. She gave herself permission that it was okay for her to be able to, to give herself everything she could do and know that she didn't have to complete it all. It was so much. So I would say overall, the messages I get are, people feeling like they got in touch with something that they didn't have when they left. There was another woman in our last group who, talked about how she was able for the first time to allow other people to help her. And she's always been very independent and self-sustained, and there were some situations where the people in Bangkok were so generous with her and so helpful that it opened her heart up, and it really gave her that she was now able, to allow other people and actually invite people to help her. And that to her was like one of the gifts of a lifetime. The stories could go on and on.
And well, we got about 5 minutes, but I think you hit it on the head, Francis, in that I think acceptance. I think people so many times, so often, are not accepted in their communities, their families, with their friends. Even though they hang out with them, who knows why they hang out with those people to begin with. But they may not be truly accepted as a community member or family or whatever. And so when they go to these other cultures, these other countries, then nobody really knows you there, and so they're more accepting of who you are initially to begin with, regardless of circumstance, and then you build a relationship under much more even territory or even grounds than not. That's what it seems like to me. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, a lot of times it's similar to what you just said. And what I find is that there's a theme that has emerged that's even bigger than that. And the thing that I'm thinking about is that there are so many people who are not prepared for what to do with the last part of their life. And they have not thought it through, they've not planned it, and when they come to the reality that I present, the reality comes from Peter Diamandis, and he tells us that, medicine is advancing so quickly that people who are alive today during our lifetime can expect that with techniques in medicine, every single person can expect and anticipate that they could live to 100 or 120. And very few of us are ready for that. And so they need a place like the travel experience that I'm talking about to open up to thinking about how on earth do I deal with the possibility of living. Let's say I'm 60 years old and I might have another 50 years ahead of me. How do I deal with that? And it really opens up to the fact that this could be the best part of my life. But I think besides individual type of issues, there's like there's a universal planetary transformation that's needed because all the areas, education, healthcare, all of the areas, science, they're changing at such a rapid pace. We need to have places where we can step back and actually prepare ourselves and think about, okay, if this is the reality of the world I live in, how am I going to deal with it?
Got it. So we got about 2 minutes left to go, Francis. Are you planning groups like for singles, groups for couples or partners? Are you planning different types of travel tours, or you're just going with the flow and just doing whatever group comes up?
At this point, all the groups I've done have been, people who felt that it was something that was right for them. They felt called. And so they joined the group. And sometimes they knew one or another person because they invited a friend. Some people have joined the group not knowing anybody. So it's happened that way. But my wife and I work very, very well together. We're such a team. And people have asked me, if we would put together a couples group that my wife and I would run together. And so that's one of the things that I'm, thinking about that we definitely would like to do that. I think it would be very powerful.
I think you're probably right. I think that and I see that you're doing a couples group and also a singles group, and then I don't know what other kind of groups you could come up with, but for now that would be a start in a direction that might take you to different places you haven't even thought about yet. So anyhow, I want to thank you, Francis, for stopping by and sharing your travel escapades with us, and also Lorae and Debbie, thank you for stopping by and sharing some time with us. To all of you out there, thank you, and have a goddess weekend. Be the love that you are, always have been, and always will be. Aloha.
Aloha. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you for using your talk radio.